What's going on, everyone? I'm Miesha from Overtime Heroics, and you're joining us today with the Overtime Heroics podcast. And my co-host today is Martin Hamilton. How are you doing, my friend?
I am good. I'm glad to be here. This is the first Overtime Heroics podcast I've done, so I'm very excited.
Same here myself, man. And we've also got Kevin joining us. How's it going, man?
What's up from across the pond? I'm here joining you guys as just a guest host, and I'm more than happy to be here with two of my brand new teammates, Martin Hamilton and Miesha Tate, and I can't wait to have a blast on this podcast.
No doubt, man. We've also got Makoa joining us. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing awesome, guys. I'm ready to have a beautiful show. I'm ready to kick things off and get started. Let's go.
Perfect, man. I'm going to jump straight into it. And better news that broke out within the UFC this week. Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards are set to throw down at UFC 262. For me, it was a shock. I wasn't expecting it. But, Martin, what were your thoughts when the fight was announced?
To be fair, it wasn't as much a shock to me because I was listening to a podcast last Monday and they were actually, one of the guys that was on it, he was saying that's the next fight he would make for Leon Edwards as Nate Diaz, which was quite weird because I was listening to that podcast, I think it was the Monday or the Tuesday, and this fight was announced on the Wednesday. So I was sitting there, I was thinking to myself, and I was like, is Dana White listening to this? Sean Shelby? I don't know, do we listen to the same type of podcasts? It was just quite funny because everyone else that fight seemed to catch them by surprise. But I'd been thinking about that fight all day because I was listening to it the night before. So it was good, man. And the fight really interests me because a lot of people seem to think it's going to be a whitewash for Leon Edwards. But I don't know if I subscribe to that. What about yourself, Kevin? I can see your hand up.
Yeah, so I was there when in our group chat when they broke the news, and one of our boys, Danny Podolsky, had a tweet go viral, right, where he painted a picture line of, hey, if Nate Diaz manages to beat Leon Edwards, Jorge Masvidal manages to beat Usman, and you set up the rematch for the BMF title, and Nate supposedly wins, guess what? The Connor trilogy with Nate is next. And believe it or not, in this crazy world, right, we've seen a COVID-19 pandemic, right? We've seen Fight Island happen, right? Things that were supposedly just magic dreams, right? Now they're all realities. So can this happen? I think so. I think with the UFC setting this matchup in mind that, hey, if Nate manages to win, it's going to be your money fight mania, essentially.
Well, I remember when I woke up the morning after and seen it was announced, and I thought it was a shock, but at the same time it wasn't, because Leon Edwards, he needs the big name to actually shoot his name up there so everyone, even in the States, can recognise him a bit more, because over here in the UK, we all know Leon Edwards, but I've got a feeling he's not as much as a well-known name in the States as he is over here. So if he wins against Nate Diaz, that's just perfect for him. And like you were saying, Kevin, the tweet from our colleague Danny went kind of viral. And if that is the case, then we need to get Danny on more predictions because that'll be wild if that comes through. But with the Nate and Leon fight, I don't know what to expect from it because I want to sound as respectful as possible, but Leon's not finishing Nate. I don't think he can. I think he can beat him up for 5 rounds. I think that's possible. But Nate's a tough motherfucker. No, it's very hard to put Nate away, as we've seen. Jorge Masvidal took a doctor stoppage. I don't think in rounds 4 or 5 he was going to get him out of there himself. It had to via the doctor.
But he looked like he was gassing out.
Yeah, indeed. And as everyone was saying after that fight ended, Nate comes alive in the 4th and 5th rounds. That's where Nate seems to do most of his damage in them fights. And again, with this fight, I really don't. It could go either of 2 ways. It could be. I'm going to go back to the Nate Diaz and Anthony Pettis fight. When that got announced, I thought that could have gone 2 ways. The way it went, or Nate Diaz getting toyed about by Pettis, but obviously Nate Diaz did the toying about. I think this could go either way for both guys. What do you think is going to happen within the fight, Martin?
I'm trying to think here. I'm a bit unsure because I think a lot of people are writing Nate off because of the Jorge Masvidal fight. But what we've seen in the Jorge Masvidal fight was Jorge utilised really good wrestling. which I'm unsure. I've not seen enough of that. For Leon, Leon seems a lot more of a striker. And Nate, we've seen Nate Diaz's boxing. It's phenomenal. He comes from a great boxing coach, and he's also a Gracie black belt in jiu-jitsu. So if this gets to the mat, like, Leon could be in some trouble. But that again, like, with Leon, we don't see enough of him. Like, we've not seen enough of him, so we don't know how much he's advanced over the last 18 months. Because like, when I heard this fight was announced, I really felt bad for Belal Muhammad, because he had his big shot against Leon Edwards, and I know a lot of people said Leon Edwards was running away with the fight because he won the first round, but we've seen fights change as it progresses, and like Belal Muhammad, he's not going to fade. He's got a great gas tank and he's a great wrestler. So I feel quite bad for him in the sense, because I feel that he's lost a huge opportunity, because he had his fight with Leon Edwards. It gets stopped with an eye poke when Leon Edwards was warned about it. So if the fight had went later, that was a disqualification, I believe. The only reason it wasn't a DQ is because it happened in the first round. So you've got to feel bad for Belal, but you want to see Leon Edwards fighting the big name guys. You want to see how well he can do against the big names in the division. So him and Nate, I'm really excited for it. I think it's one of the ones that's on a coin for me. It can go either way.
Yeah, like I was saying, I fully agree with that. I'm going to go back to Danny's tweet that you mentioned, Kevin. Say Nate Diaz gets the win against Leon Edwards, and this month Jorge Masvidal wins the title against Kamaru Usman. Do you think we're going to get a BMF title rematch with the welterweight title on the line as well?
All right, and here's one thing I don't think everyone's looking into this, right? Remember, the UFC went through a pandemic just like any other sport, which means they had financial losses, big time. So now you're back in full gear. You're running everything, everything's 100%. Now you got to make up that revenue, because you have a partner in ESPN who's like, hey, show us the money now. We helped you get everything underway. We kicked you things off with ABC, UFC Fight Island, all these things. Now they need to pay the money. Now, the reason why Danny's tweet is so realistic is with all these fights happening, they're all money fights, right? So with the money fights happening, you're gonna be able to bring like Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, like you can listen, if you can speak something, you can make it real if you really work hard on it, right? That's all you need. Dana White, the moment he says yes to something, right, there's a possibility. So now, why did Nate get this match? Easy. Nate is they're giving him a path. They're not letting him walk into the fight. They're like, hey, we're giving you a shot to get into this title picture. You have an opportunity. We're not going to hold your hand. So now the only thing that I see is Nate Diaz can be his own enemy when it comes to his fights, right? He fights like such a badass to the point where like it hurts him, because he'll stand there and be like, yeah, come fight me. And he'll get tagged and he'll get dropped, right? Like again, in the Conor fights, right? He looks tough. He's tough. His face is bleeding, and Conor, like, his face is like, looking nice. Like, I think like, hey, if Nate Diaz didn't take as much punishment as he did back in the day, in the fights today, he wouldn't get cut up as easy, which means the judges won't get swayed as easy to give the decisions to his opponent. Like, and going on to Leon Edwards' side, Leon has the chance to play party pooper, right? He can come and literally send Nate Diaz packing, send Usman packing, send Masvidal packing, if he can go on the right path and win all these fights. But that's a big if, right? These guys are not easy guys. They hold their very own credentials of why they're in the UFC. And this matchup is the first stop to seeing if Money Fight Mania actually happens.
Well, I'm gonna get predictions off you boys now for this fight. Martin, how does this fight end, or does it go to the decision?
I'll kind of contradict everything I was saying there, and I'll go Leon Edwards by decision.
What about you, Kevin?
If I had to make a choice, right, my heart wants Nate Diaz to win by majority decision, because he lost the majority decision to Conor McGregor. But my heart says if Leon continues the way he did against Bilal Muhammad and doesn't show any rust or doesn't have any difficulty, I agree with Martin. I think he gets the 5-round decision.
Yeah, I agree with both you boys. If Leon Edwards comes out the way he did against Bilal, obviously that first round came out, all forces coming at him. And who knows, Bilal could have got finished in that fight, but we'll never know. Hopefully we get to see that run back because it was a good fight on Leon Edwards' half before that. But I'm going to agree with both you boys. It's going to be a unanimous decision win for our boy over here in England, Leon Edwards. But
hey, the bad boy of Birmingham.
You said it right there. I want to talk about Miesha Tate. I remember a couple of weeks ago her return has been announced. I can't remember exactly the date, but I'm sure it's July against, what was her name? Marion Reneau, I think.
Yeah, Marion Reneau.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to butcher the name, but I don't. That's with me. I'm always butchering names, so I had to be a bit careful. But this one, I'm 50-50 of, because it'll be good to see Miesha back in the octagon. Obviously, her retirement was unexpected to a lot of fans. That was just about when I was just first getting into MMA, watching it every week. And I remember watching her in the fight, I believe Raquel Pennington, when she retired. I may be wrong at that point, but if it was, I remember 205, she lost the fight, and then she announced her retirement, and it's a bit of a shock. And now, 4.5 years later, she's coming back against real tough girl in Marion Reneau, and I don't know how this one's going to go. What about you, Martin?
I'm kind of unsure because I think we've seen fights go two ways when someone's been out for so long. But I remember when GSP came back, I know GSP is the pinnacle of the sport, so it's hard to judge anyone by GSP standards because GSP is never out of shape. But when he came back after 4.5 years and fought Michael Bisping, everyone thought it was too long. But he got it done and he looked amazing. But then you've seen the flip side. Like we've seen Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. Conor McGregor didn't look as sharp as what he's been, and he hasn't been out for anywhere near the length of time of Miesha Tate. So for me to really gauge it, I feel I'd need to see some footage of Miesha Tate to see how she's moving, how she's maybe hitting the bag, hitting pads, because I feel that would give you a better gauge for how her comeback's going to look.
Just to hop in here for a second with the facts. Miesha Tate versus Marion Reneau will take place on July 17th at an unnamed UFC event. The location and venue of the event has not been officially announced.
Well, there you go, guys. From our fact checker, Makoa. Cheers for that, man.
Hold on, one question quickly before I go. Makoa, is she still employed by One Championship?
No, I was actually listening to an interview with her and someone else earlier. She has actually put in, I think, her 2 weeks notice is from her own mouth. So, and also another quick interesting fact, Marion Reneau has said that when she was beginning her professional career, she would watch Miesha Tate fight, and it was one of her idols. Well, now Marion Reneau is retiring after this fight, and Miesha Tate's coming back. So very ironic right there. Last fact for me. Yeah.
What do you think on this fight, Kevin?
So I had a different perspective of why she was returning, and it's pure speculation. There's no basis to this. And listen, if I'm wrong, I'm happy I'm wrong, right? She's coming back for the love of sport. But recently she had a legal dispute with her ex, Brian Caraway, over, I think, stolen ATVs. If I'm not wrong, Makoa fact check me. But I think, legal battles, we all know, hey, it can be rough, right? And I'm pretty sure being the VP of one who's just as hurt financially as the UFC when it comes to running events and everything, I think, she might need a paycheck. And, listen, she's already a solid name built into the sport. She's not a pay-per-view headliner, but she can definitely headline a UFC fight night. It's a win-win for the UFC, right? They don't have to worry about a fight night now. It's taken care of. The main event's there. For Miesha, she comes in, she gets a nice paycheck, right? Takes care of what she needs to take care. But hey, if it's now for the legal dispute, I'm happy she's coming back to see if she still got it. Because when she left after that Raquel Pennington fight, I felt like it was the wrong way because, they showed like, Miesha saying, I don't want to belong here. I don't want to be here no more. I'm retiring. And, her ex at the time, who was also her coach, was like, what are you doing? What's going on? Everything okay? You got to talk to us. And I think that decision was made a bit rash because of, back-to-back losses. But hey, I'm happy Miesha Tate's retired. I hope she does not go down the Ronda Rousey path. I hope she gets better results. I'm excited to see what's up.
Yeah, same here. I'm excited to see, and I don't know if she'd get back into title contention, but I hope she's come back to potentially go for a run at the title, because when you're going for a run at the title, you'll fight anyone, anywhere, and at any time. And I hope that's the case with Miesha. And I believe it could be from a money point that she wants to come back. But like you say, if she's not, fair play, she's coming back for the love of the sport. But Marion Reneau, it's not going to be no easy task for her. It's not going to be easy task for any of these girls. And I don't know with Marion. I don't know if it's going to be a fact of, obviously she's fighting her idol, and that might put her off a bit, because I've seen in a few fights with people like that, it does. So it can go 50-50 on that sense. But what do you think, Martin? How do you see the fight playing out?
That was kind of my concern as well. With, see if you've grew up and you've watched someone, and as like Mako said there, she called her idol. I never think that's a good idea to fight your idols, and I know that might sound daft because sometimes you do need to overcome that, but I feel sometimes there could be too much respect there. And with somebody like Miesha's very dangerous. So if you're hesitating in there with her, if you're not getting in like 110%, she can still get the victory in you. And something I would quite like, I'm quite interested to know is, was Miesha still under contract with the UFC? Like, did she still have a fight contract? Because I know Ben Askren, he's retired, but he's still under contract with the UFC. So he's had to go and seek permission to maybe fight to fight Jake Paul. Sorry. So yep. I'm unsure. So I'm kind of curious if Miesha's maybe seen the likes of Alistair Overeem, Junior Dos Santos getting let go, and she's still got a contract there that the UFC could easily rip up, and she's maybe went, oh no, I might need to fight because I might never have another chance to fight in the UFC. Like, they could cancel my contract. But that's bearing in mind if she's got a contract. I don't see the UFC taking on many new fighters, especially with what's going on in the world. So that's leading me to believe that she was under contract.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I'm guessing she would be under contract because, like you say, it's UFC aren't signing many people at the minute unless they're excelling in their promotions, like we've seen with Paddy Pimblett this week joining the UFC. We'll more than likely get onto that soon. But also in the past couple of months, a lot of the signings have been short-term replacements, like short-notice fight replacements. So that's where you've seen a few of the people getting signed. And just to point one out from myself, Reese McKee was signed on short notice to fight Hamzat Chimaev. Yeah, Hamzat. But unfortunately, Reese's performance led to him being let go. I'm sure he will be back soon. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Miesha performs. I'm going to give my prediction. I'm going to say she'll get a decision win, and I think it might be close. But I think the fact that Marion idolized her growing up and coming into the sport, that may play a factor in it. So I'm going to edge towards Miesha. How about you, Kevin?
So before I go on to my prediction, one quick point I want to make is, if you're the UFC, you want 3 fights out of Miesha Tate. Those 3 fights are obviously the first one with Marion Reneau. The second fight is going to be against Juliana Pena to decide the #1 contender for the Bantamweight Championship, because the waters to fight, the waters right now are too shallow. So if you can pack up 2 wins, it means a title shot. Because Juliana Pena is already asking for a title shot, and she hasn't even won the first fight, right? She's already asking for one. So you're the UFC, you won 3 wins from Miesha Tate, right? 3 fights, 2 wins leading up to her title shot against Amanda Nunes, a rematch of UFC 200, right? Big fight on the card. It was like almost crowning moment for Nunes, and now that person's back to steal the crown. So honestly, I'm gonna give this fight to Miesha Tate. I think she comes back and she gets the submission victory over Marion Reneau, who I think plays the idol card a little too close to her heart, and it'll effectively cost her the fight.
What about you, Martin?
I was going to say submission as well, so I'll need to beef it up. I'll go Miesha Tate via submission in the 3rd round.
Love it, love it. I'm going to jump into a card that's coming up. It's the next UFC card, actually. I've just realised. Kevin Holland stepping up 10 days notice against Marvin Vettori. No matter what anyone's opinions is on the Trailblazer, you've got to give him credit. He will fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, given the chance. And we'll get on to Darren Till in a moment, but it's unfortunate he's not fighting. I was really looking forward to that fight, but still, we've got a fight in our hands. Kevin Holland, luckily, he didn't take that much damage in the Brunson fight, so he is able to come and give us a good fight, hopefully. But Marvin Vettori, real good fighter. Before I say my thoughts, I want to hear yours, Martin.
I think it's a gangster move for Kevin Holland. I'll say that. Like, the man, he gets so much criticism for his last fight purely because he wouldn't shut up the whole fight, even though he was getting beaten, which you either like it or you don't like it. For me, I didn't like it after a certain point. A certain point, I thought, right, you really need to up your game a wee bit here. But by the by, to step in such short notice to fight Marvin Vettori, who is an absolute killer, it shows the guy's confidence in himself, and it shows that he's there, he's ready, and he's eager to redeem himself. So I've got to give him props for that. But do I see him getting past Marvin Vettori? No. But I like it. I like the idea. I think it's gangster, and he's got a great right hand, so who knows? But I don't see it, but I like the idea.
Well, you know what? When you're talking about the talking during the fights, I see both sides of it. It's a bit of entertainment, but also it can be seen quite disrespectful to the opponent as such. I personally like it to a certain extent. When it comes more mocking than talking, that's when I draw the line, and I think that's when it's more disrespectful. Like when he took Brunson down, I think he took him down once in the fight, and he was shouting, oh my God, oh my God. Obviously, he's done it. Then that's, in my mind, I'd take a bit of disrespect to that. And in my opinion, this part's a bit comical. When he was going to the corner and he was shouting over to Habib, give me wrestling advice, brother, give me wrestling advice. That it's funny to an extent, but if you're wanting to win the fight, get into title contention, you can't be shouting over to a spectator, even though it is Habib Nurmagomedov. You can't be shouting over to a spectator asking for advice. But personally, like Martin says, this is a gangster move from Kevin Holland, an absolute killer in Marvin Vettori. We've seen what Marvin did in a couple of weeks' notice, I believe, when he fought Jack Manson. Again, Darren Till had to pull out of that fight, but we've seen what he managed to do against Jack, who was talking about a title contention potentially after that fight. He dominated that fight, Marvin, and this one, I'm going to hear Kevin's thoughts on this before I say what I think is going to happen in the fight.
Listen, Big Mouth, when I saw the news, I was like, yeah, this guy's cashing out, straight up. Like, I think Kevin Holland isn't your traditional fighter, looking for a chance at gold. I think he's here to collect paychecks, make money. So, he's a prize fighter. That's simply what he is, right? You show him the cash, you say him like, hey, we're going to pay you this much if you come in and fight. He's like, damn it, I'm in. Let's go, right? That's the type of mentality he has. Kevin Holland, I think we are very underrated on his ground game. I have to give it, he is a Travis Lutter student, and that fight, I give equal blame to Travis Lutter for not sitting his ass down and slapping him in the face and be like, yo, concentrate, because that's what you needed to do to him, because he was all over the place, right? You could tell that he was not thinking straight. He was he couldn't decide what to do, where to go, what to do with the striking, where to go with his ground game. But I think after that performance, when I saw him at the post-fight press conference, that you could tell, I messed up. I was all over the place. Now, after having some time to think about it, I know I messed up. So if we get the 5-win Kevin Holland, I think, if he, listen, I saw him trying to pull off a flying omoplata in one of his fights. So if that guy can show up, right, I think he has a good chance of giving a good fight against Marvin Vettori. But I think Marvin Vettori is like, dead. I think he's just, on like skyrocketing towards a title shot. It'll be hard for Kevin Holland to put his big mouth to big use in winning this fight. So I'm going to have to go with the split decision. If I had to give my decision, split decision for Martin Vettori or a surprise submission from Kevin Holland.
I've got a point there just to add to what Kevin was saying there. Did Travis Lutter not say in the Joe Rogan podcast that Kevin's the best grappler that he's ever worked with? Like, he's better than GSP. He picks things up so quick. Like, apparently, like when he first stepped foot into the jiu-jitsu gym and started having a couple of rolls, people didn't believe he was a white belt. People thought he had been grappling for a lot longer because like he came from a kung fu background, so he had like no grappling experience and went on the mats, and they were all like really impressed with what he was doing, and you can kind of see that. Because see if someone was to tell me that a man could knock out Jacare Souza when Jacare Souza's on top of him, who is, I know he's old, I know Jacare Souza's old, but he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He is the elite of the elite. I don't care if that man's 100. If he's on top of you, you're in trouble. So to be able to kind of combat that and land those kind of strikes, that shows the level of his grappling. But I agree with what you were saying with Marvin Vettori skyrocketing to a title shot, because he gave Israel Adesanya his toughest test to date. Well, obviously before he fought Jan Blachowicz, but in the middleweight division, he gave him the toughest fight that he's had. I know Israel was only a couple of fights deep into the UFC, but it shows the caliber of fighter he is, and he's a really hot prospect in the European scene, and it'll be interesting to see how well he does.
What do you think the final outcome of the fight is going to be for Marvin and Kevin? James?
Well, I think Marvin Vettori via unanimous decision. I feel it'll be quite similar to how maybe the Brunson fight went, apart from without a lot of the trash talking. I just feel Marvin Vettori's too well rounded. He'll be too much to handle. It'll be interesting.
Well, this may be my downfall, and I'm always going to be on the Kevin Holland hype train. It seems I don't know what it is. Whenever someone's got a mouth like that, I love watching him. But like I was saying earlier, it comes to a point where it is disrespectful, kind of, and that's where I do draw the line. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you're taking it a bit too far there, Kevin. But you know what? I'm known on other places for giving out wild predictions, so I'm going to give it here. I'm going to say Kevin Holland via a third round knockout.
All right.
I like that. I
like it.
Could happen. He's got great hands. We've seen it in the Brunson fight. Like he rocked Brunson a couple of times as well, so it could happen, and that's. But I feel like with Kevin Holland, he's the type of guy that you do want him to succeed, because if Kevin Holland is at the pinnacle of the sport, it's great for mixed martial arts. He'll bring eyes to the sport. See with that kind of persona he gives off, the way he talks, the way he is in the ring, the way he is in the cage. That will bring eyes to the sport. So if he can skyrocket up there and have a fight with Israel Adesanya, imagine the press conferences with him and Israel. That'd be outstanding. You would pay just for the press conference.
No, hold up. I'll tell you the dream matchup for Kevin Holland. And it's because their personalities are so similar, in my opinion. I think the best match, if Nick Diaz had to come back to fight somebody, imagine Kevin Holland. Because look, think about it, right? This guy is doing impossible things from his back, right? The same thing with Nick Diaz when he pulled off that Gogo Plata against Gomi, right? I'm telling you, man, if you can set this up on Fight Island as a main event, oh my God, it will be crazy.
But does Kevin Holland make it to the fight, or does Nick jump him after a press conference?
You know what? Honestly, if I had to make, I would love to see Team Luter versus Team Diaz. Like, you just see both. Yo, honestly, if we made that tough, listen, we just found out news about new two tough coaches, which we'll get into later on with Mason. But altogether, I think Kevin Holland. I think this fight, if he loses, he will go down to 170, and him and any Diaz brother being in charge of tough will be amazing, because I think Nick and Nate are great teachers when it comes to the MMA. I feel like they would be great coaches as well. But telling you right now, Kevin Holland versus any Diaz brother is the money fight to make. If you want to look at they'll both listen. You can't understand Nate, but he's talking crap to the other fighters. And Kevin Holland, he just lays it straight, as brutally honest as it is. So yeah, that's my dream fight. And listen, before we go on to it, me and Kevin share the same name. I hope he does well. I honestly do, because I don't think Kevin's taking an L is good for every Kevin out there. So that's just my 2 cents.
Great stuff there. While we're on the subject of Kevin Holland and Marvin Vettori, I just want to jump over to the guy that Kevin Holland is replacing, Darren Till. Obviously, it's come out he's had to pull out of his past 2 fights now for injuries. This time it's a broken collarbone, I believe he said on his Instagram. And I'm really gutted for Darren, obviously. I personally believe he would have beaten both Jack and Marvin, but via however it happened. But I want to get your guys' opinions on what's next for Darren, because personally, depending how this fight goes, I don't know what's next for Darren. If I'm going to throw a name out there, Jared Cannonier, does he fight Darren Till at some point?
Oh, well, that's a good shout actually, because no much is really happening with Jared Cannonier, but I don't know if he's getting lined up. But after the Whittaker fight, we've not really seen much of him. I feel with Darren, Darren's been really unfortunate with injuries, but what helps Darren is he's got the pull factor. He's a big name in the sport, and when you're a big name in the sport, you'll always find yourself in big matchups. I would quite like to see him fight Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa's not got a fight, and I love Paulo Costa, and I think the way he fights might kind of suit Darren Till. I know Israel Adesanya is desperate to fight him. I don't really get that. I know they're both really good strikers, but I feel Israel Adesanya would just pick him apart. So that's a bit of a tough fight. But I would love to see him fight Paulo Costa. I know Paulo Costa's just had to pull out of the Whittaker fight, and Kelvin Gastelum stepped in. So Paulo Costa's not got a fight. Darren Till's not got a fight. Let's make the fight. Sean Shelby, if you're listening, make the fight.
What do you think, Kevin? What's next for our boy Till?
When I look at Till, I agree, with Martin, nothing goes the right way for Darren, right? Like, look at when Darren fought Tyron Woodley, right? Tyron Woodley was the old Tyron Woodley, right? Imagine Darren Till waited one more fight. He would have fought the Woodley that fought Usman. And imagine how easy that would have been, having Woodley not throw any punches and just stare at you right? But hey, Darren Till was unlucky enough to face the last time we would ever see Woodley look as successful as he's ever been in the octagon. I think if Till's next bout decides whether he stays in the division or not, to be quite frank, because if Kelvin Gastelum loses to Robert Whittaker, I think, when you look into the MMA math of things, he beat Kelvin Gastelum. And then if Kelvin Gastelum loses, I think the best fight to make would be Rob Whittaker versus Darren Till 2, right? Possibly. You could also, I agree with Martin, you could make Paulo Costa versus Darren Till. I'm having a tough time looking at where Darren Till is going towards, because there isn't much trajectory for Darren Till at the moment, right? Each time a fight gets announced, he gets hurt. It's there's a level of hype a guy can have, right? And it's think about it like a level up bar, right? He had it at maximum potential, and as each injury comes along, you're cutting off a chunk of hype. So right now, there's no hype around Darren Till, and especially with the pandemic going on and not a lot of fans being able to attend events and have their eyes on the product, it's tough to see what Darren Till does. I hope he gets the fight against Paulo Costa. I hope he gets the fight against Rob Whittaker. But right now, Darren Till, I think before he makes any moves, I think he should just sit still, recover. I don't think he should look for any fight. I think he needs to wait for the pictures to play out before he chooses his next opponent.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Kevin.
See, just on the topic of the Tyron Woodley fight, sorry, do you feel he was pushed into that fight too quick? Because I think his biggest name before that was Cowboy Cerrone.
Yeah, so I agree. Darren Till was pushed too fast because that loss, that win against, because I think he lost against Woodley, but being the hometown boy, he got the dub. I give it to him. I think he needed one more fight. Like after that Wonder Boy fight, if he had like a knockout finish against a top contender, then yes, you give him Woodley. But that was so razor thin that you can't give him a title. Like you need some, like when you go into a title fight, you have a definitive claim. Like, yeah, this title fight is my title fight. It's nobody else's. But for Darren Till, there were so many questions because Colby Covington was in the picture at that time, right? Colby Covington was in the whole title picture. And Darren Till essentially, as the Brits would say, shafted Colby Covington and got the title fight. So, in a sense, yes, he would, like, if he had knocked out Colby Covington and fought Woodley, yes, you deserve, because honestly, you could claim the interim belt and walk into the fight. But if he had knocked out a top contender like Colby Covington before going into the title fight, I think he would have been more ready because he would have tested his grappling skills with a top grappler like Covington, and he would have won, man. Like it was crazy because I feel bad for Till because the UFC messed up big time with Till the way he went, and I think it's just sad because right now Till is in he's essentially at the bottom of the totem pole because there are other top stars that are growing faster instead of him, right? And UFC would give priority to them. So yeah.
Not to interrupt the flow too much here, guys, but breaking news moments ago, Dustin Poirier will fight Conor McGregor at UFC 264 on July 10th. Let's go.
All right, it's done.
That's the fanboy me coming out. I've got Conor in that one. I'm gonna say it there. While Makoa got us that news, let's move on to that because I've seen a few rumors of it being announced, but now it's officially announced. Martin, how's the trilogy playing out?
Am I the only one that's no excited for this? Like, oh my god, I hate immediate rematches. See when it's not the champion. And I'm a huge McGregor fan. I'm a McGregor dick rider. I'll admit it. But I love Dustin Poirier as well. So I should be overly excited for this fight. But I've just seen it. A couple of months ago. Look, McGregor, he'll change his camp. He'll look to check leg kicks, all that kind of stuff. But I want to see another fight before I see that fight. I want McGregor to fight Gaethje, Poirier to have fought Oliveira, them to have won, and then make the trilogy for the belt after they're both coming off wins. I think they done it well with the Nate Diaz fight. I'll admit that. Like Nate Diaz fight, they managed to get that immediate rematch going quite well, but that worked well because how short a period of time they both had to prepare for each other. So I accept that. But when you've had a full camp, you get knocked out in the second round. Do you deserve an immediate rematch? I don't know. Dustin Poirier turned the championship down, and I get why he's done it. Prize fighter, it's the biggest fight in the UFC. Everyone wants the red panty night to fight McGregor, but I don't know. I'm not excited for it personally.
What do you think about it, Kevin?
All right. So I'm listen, McGregor was one of the biggest factors of me, transitioning from a casual into a hardcore fan, right? I give McGregor that credit. And I'm not gonna lie, it was totally shocking to me watching McGregor get knocked out because that's one thing we have never seen. In my whole time, I've never seen McGregor get knocked out. And to this point, I thought he was the one guy whose chin was real, like, you know, it was solid. But, you know, when it came down to it, you know, looking at when Conor was champion and to how, you know, to the lightweight division now, it's the whole landscape has changed, right? Anything is possible because that's how dangerous the division is, right? Everybody is literally one punch away from being the next one in the title picture, right? Anybody, like the top 10 right now is more dangerous than that remote island where no human being can go to. That's how dangerous the division is, right? Second, I agree with Mason. The rematch is too soon because of the full camps and everything. If I was McGregor, right, the way I look at calf kicks, I compare to COVID-19 because it is brand new to the sport and it's taking the world by storm, right? There's no other way to look into it. Calf kick, you listen, it took the government and the world a while before they found working COVID-19 vaccines, right? Took them a whole goddamn year. The same thing with calf kicks. You're not going to find a solution that quickly. You might find a way to make it further down the rounds by minimizing the damage, but the damage is still there, right? Because science is science. There's nowhere for that swelling to go. It's only in that calf. There's nothing you can do about it. And I saw that if you watch the Bellator 255, right? You saw the calf kicks in full alert from Jason Jackson, who's one of DP's teammates. You saw the calf kicks in play. And you saw, like, the moment Gracie got kicked with it, he fell down. Like, he couldn't keep balance or weight on his leg, and he was going for the takedown. So if I was Conor, my best bet, and I mean, listen, and I think this is something we all, like, you know, people don't look into, is I think Conor needs to, like, you know, Kavanaugh made the point where, you know, he needs to switch it up and go orthodox, right? As a joke on Ariel Helwani's podcast. But I think Conor needs to do what Michael Chandler did and start doing switch stances, right? So constantly keep switching stances. So, you know, listen, when you switch stances, right, you'll be able to defend the calf kick a little better. And, you know, you're giving him things to worry on from both sides rather than one side. Like I said, you know, Dustin Poirier has put his time in the sport, has literally fought wars while Conor has not. You know, the last war he fought in was against Mayweather, and that was in a losing effort. And the same thing happened with DP. Like, you know, like just like in Mayweather, you know, McGregor looked great in the beginning, you know, had a couple of great shots against Mayweather. And same thing in the DP fight. Looks great in the beginning. Conor McGregor's thing should not be, hey, let me go and finish him off quickly. For once in his goddamn life, he needs to put on a goddamn war. He needs to show that, hey, I'm the first double champion in the UFC history, and this is why. That's what he needs to do in this performance. Because right now, this is a legacy fight, and this is his career fight. Because if Conor McGregor loses, makes no difference. He's going over to boxing, and I'm telling you right now, the calf kick might be the end of Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, you use the comparison of calf kicks in COVID-19 and with the vaccines. It's going to take a while till the MMA guys can figure out how to properly counter them, how to essentially stop. Well, I don't think you're ever going to be able to stop them, but how to be able to work with them. But I just want to jump subject. Kevin mentioned it earlier on. The new tough coaches was announced this morning, last night. Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega, obviously. I'm a big fan of Volkanovski. I've spoke to the man himself, great guy. And Ortega, I'm a huge fan of him. So this fight, it's bittersweet for both ends. I'm big fans of both guys. So whoever comes out on top, I'm going to be happy, but I'm going to be disappointed for the guy that doesn't come out on top. But tough season 29. This is going to be, I think, I don't really know, because I don't know how the guys are going to perform as coaches, and there's not much beef, as you'd say, in there. So I don't know how, and in terms of coaching and watching as an MMA aspect, I think it could be really good because both guys have a good lot of knowledge. But for the casuals who join in and watch for the beef, then I don't think this is going to be the season for them. But for us hardcore MMA fans, I think this is going to be a really good season. But first glances, how would you say this season could turn out, Martin?
I think it could turn out quite well, and I was quite excited when I heard Volkanovski and Ortega were going to be coaches, because they both seem like genuine students of the game, and you've seen that with kind of how Ortega's developed. Like, he's really good with his hands, but he's also like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist, and he's so well-rounded that I feel he could be great for this like, up-and-coming generation of fighters. And it's very similar with Volkanovski as well. Like, Volkanovski's got great striking and great wrestling. Like, I feel like it's gone the days of when you used to watch Tough and you would get like a striking coach who just really focused on striking and all the aspects of that, and they were like leaving parts of the game out slightly. I feel like these two could be really good, and they'd be great. I think they'll be great coaches. I'm personally not overly bothered about the beef, but I feel Ortega's someone who doesn't really take criticism well. So if Volkanovski does say something, whether it's a joke and Ortega takes it the wrong way, you could get a bit of beef, which could be, because we've seen that with Korean Zombie's friend, the Korean rapper, the one that Ortega
they got slapped.
So Ortega, he doesn't take any shit. So I feel that could be very interesting on Tough.
What do you think of this upcoming season, Kevin?
I'm gonna say this. I'm disappointed. I am disappointed in the UFC, especially because Tough isn't booming. It's not what it once was, right? It's not bringing out great talent like it used to, right? Instead, you see Dana White's Contender Series pushing out more contenders rather than Tough. So yes, I think they dropped the ball with this one, big time, because not only Tough wasn't doing good before COVID-19, and now with COVID-19, it's definitely the bottom of the pile, right? I think the smartest thing to do would have been to put Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal as the two coaches, right? Or Jorge Masvidal, Kamaru Usman as the two coaches. Somebody with beef, somebody who, if you're gonna watch, you're gonna see them fight on TV, on reality TV, right? You want Real Housewives type content from this Tough show, and you're not gonna get that with Brian Ortega versus Volkanovski, because the guys, Volkanovski's like a chipper old guy. Like, hey, you piss him off, yeah, he might curse you out, just like the Australian he is. But man, I'm looking at this, and I mean, listen, yeah, great. We got Volkanovski and Ortega a date and everything, but for them to coach Tough, I don't think that's the right move. Like, I'm telling you, you could find 4 different fights that would have much more beef than these guys, right? Honestly, I would have rather had them co-main Connor's card, if anything, if that was the case. Because listen, I don't think anybody's gonna complain about being a co-main on Connor's card. That's one thing. So yeah, man, I honestly think they dropped the ball. I really, really wish they put some, because I was looking at, because the hype was built by Dana White saying it was going to be welterweight. So we speculated, yeah, man, whoever the next title fight is, that's who the coaches are going to be. So when we heard the title fight was going to be Usman and Masvidal too, we're like, oh, great, we're going to have, the Tough thing going up, but guess not. So my honest opinion was they've dropped the ball. I think if I'm not saying that it happens, and I don't hope that it happens, but if one of them drops or manages to get hurt, I think the UFC should look at this second chance given by God and make the right choice. But as of now, I hope the season is great. I hope that's me being very, very optimistic.
Well, I'm going to jump on the last UFC subject I wanted to talk about today, is the John Jones and Francis Ngannou situation. I'm going to put it out there. Jones is asking for 8 to 10 million, and I think that's from the UFC alone. I don't think Jones gets that, because personally, at first, I thought, yeah, maybe, just because he is the greatest of all time, the most dominant light heavyweight we've ever seen. But I've seen an interesting fact before. There's been, I think Conor McGregor has sold a number of pay-per-views with $1+ million pay-per-view buys. I think Brock Lesnar has sold a number with 1+ million buys. And if the fact is correct, John Jones has never sold a pay-per-view with 1 million pay-per-view buys. So I know this one will smash Jones's previous record, no doubt about it, because it'll be one of the biggest fights of all time. But 8 to 10 million is a hell of a lot of money, especially with, like Kevin mentioned earlier in the show, the year the UFC have had. Yes, they've had great fights put on. Yes, they've had probably one of the most successful years in terms of matchmaking, but they're missing out on all that. Them fans attending the events, all those fans paying to sit in those seats. So I don't know if this fight will happen. I really do, but I'm going to give my prediction early if that fight's happen. I say Francis Ngannou wins this via knockout, but I don't know if this fight will happen just because of the demands Jones has.
Just to come in here with some facts, John Jones posted on Twitter at 1:40 a.m. yesterday. I just had a great dinner and the best conversation I've had with Dana in a very long time. We got the deal done, date to be announced soon. And Dana White himself commented and said, incredible night, brother. So, seems like we're getting the fight, boys.
Yo, Makoa, what was yesterday?
Yesterday was April 2nd, sir.
I know, but what time did you read his tweet? It was April 2nd, but it was still April 1st from where he tweeted.
Damn. So Dana played the fans and even commented and went with it.
So before you, sorry, Martin, before so if you go into Ariel Helwani will appear on a pretty famous guy, Pat McAfee's podcast called The Pat McAfee Show. And they talked about it on their show, and Ariel confirmed that, it was an April Fool's prank. And believe me, my heart was just as much as sad as anyone else was.
I'm sad.
I think Martin had something to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
You've just clarified my question, because I was going to say, in the UK, if you do an April Fool's, you're not really allowed to do an April Fool's after midday. I don't know if that's the same in America, but you're classed as like the bigger fool. But just to come back to what Mason was saying, like 8 or 10 million to fight Francis Ngannou, it's not enough for me. No, that is the scariest man to ever walk the face of this earth. You want more than 8 to 10 million to fight him, because like this is kind of like my stance on it, right? And I'll go away from making jokes for a second, right? Everyone says that John Jones is scared of Ngannou. That's false. If John Jones was scared of Ngannou, he would have stayed at light heavyweight. But that's why would he come up knowing that Francis Ngannou is going to fight Stipe? He came up knowing that Francis Ngannou, if he won that fight, will be the biggest payday he can get in this sport. Because with Francis Ngannou, you've got risk versus reward. And that man, with one of his punches, can take 10 years off your life. That's not an exaggeration. Like, that man can put you in places with his fists. He hits so hard, so he deserves to be compensated. And now the UFC are in a position with Francis Ngannou. And I said this like the morning of the fight. I said like Dana White has got his Mike Tyson. This guy can be like one of the biggest names in combat sports. Now he's got that title. He can be up there with Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali, and people will pay to watch Francis Ngannou. Watch this fight do more than what Brock Lesnar done.
What do you think on this fight happening or maybe not happening, Kevin?
All right, I agree. Martin, you're right. Francis Ngannou is the MMA's version of Mike Tyson. But guess what? Mike Tyson was beat too. All right, that's one thing. I must be the only guy that's not fully on the Francis Ngannou train. And here's why. When Stipe went for that takedown, Francis did the same exact thing he did in the first fight. But guess who was yelling from his corner? Usman. He was yelling, say, sprawl, sprawl, sprawl. And then it clicked in his head. DC and Helwani in their podcast, they go into this. It clicked in his head, and he sprawls and he takes his back. But the one thing everybody's not looking into is there was no second takedown attempt, right? Everything stayed on the feet. in reality, right? If Stipe were to fight John Jones is a better wrestler, because if you guys look at him, right, in the lightweight division, his wrestling was A1, right? He took down DC everybody who thinks John Jones isn't a good wrestler. He is the first man to take down DC, right? So, hey, if I'm wrong, Makoa, fact check me, please. But the thing is, John Jones has 2 older brothers, I think, that were in the NFL, right? Yeah. They're big, beefy boys. I'm telling you right now, with Jones beefing up to 250, possibly being 240 against the Francis Ngannou, I think John Jones destroys the Rubik's Cube that Joe Rogan called was Francis Ngannou. I'm telling you.
I must admit, Kevin, although how much I love merking about Francis Ngannou and how much I'm impressed with the man, I was reading somewhere that his last 5 fights have totaled a total of 8 minutes, which is very impressive. But I'm also on the train of John Jones being the best of all time. So this fight for me is, I've said it before, it's a flip of a coin. I feel this fight can go any way. If Francis can catch him, and Francis is now working with one of those superstar teams. He's up there with Extreme Couture. So his level of training partner compared to the first Stipe fight is huge. But with the Stipe fight as well, I said Francis Ngannou was going to knock him out, because a lot had changed for Stipe since that first Francis Ngannou fight. Stipe had been knocked out, and he got older as well. He got knocked out in the first DC fight. He had 3 wars with DC. But that takes levels off of your chin, and he absorbed some amount of bombs to Francis in the first fight. So I feel Francis knocking him out seemed to be a massive possibility. But with John Jones, I don't know how that fight goes. He could keep his range. He could oblique kick Francis into another. Who knows? It's one of those ones. It depends how long the fight goes. For me, if the fight is in the first couple of rounds, Francis has got a huge chance of knocking him out.
Quick spot in, like, another thing, right? Stipe and Woodley were in the same boat when they, when they had wars, right? They, they've been through a lot with their division, and then when it came to face the next best guy, they lost. Like, Tyron Woodley lost to Kamaru Usman, Stipe lost to Francis Ngannou, and I'm telling you, the reason why I sincerely, and I don't mean no disrespect to Francis Ngannou, the reason why I give his corner more credit is because who's the last person to win off a power jab? It was Kamaru Usman when he demolished Gilbert Burns with that switching of the jab to the power jab. And I saw the same thing with Francis Ngannou. He used that power jab to excellent proficient and knocked down Stipe, because Stipe was not expecting a power jab. He thought, hey, if he's going to hit me with his right hand, it's going to come from the orthodox stance, because he throws haymakers like that. But Stipe, already seeing Francis first and what he's been able to throw in the last couple of fights, expected nothing from him, not Francis to switch to southpaw and then hit him with the power jab. And listen, man, even if you're hurt, right, just as Francis got, he got dinged up, but he wasn't out of it. And that was the mistake Stipe was like, oh, I got him hurt, let me try to finish him. And he paid the price. But going back to the John Jones fight, I think if you just saw one takedown, I'm telling you, man, if you're looking at a guy, look at who was the guy, the black belt BJJ world champion who lost to Goody, Rodolfo Vieira. Look at that. That guy is built like a Greek god, right? And he got submitted in his own martial art, his own, like, he is the master of jiu-jitsu, and he got tapped out. So I'm telling you right now, honestly, with John Jones, I think John Jones has better head movement, better striking capabilities, and has more use of his leg kicks and leg attacks. So I think John Jones, he wants to get paid, and I don't blame him, right? If John Jones has done a lot for the sport, I'm telling you, if John Jones went back to the 80s where there was no media at all, he would be one of the legends of the sport. But it's unfortunate that we live in such a social media influenced world, right? So John Jones against Francis Ngannou, I think it's gonna happen. I think this April Fool's joke was a tease. Listen, if Dana White had to hop along and tease everybody, that means something's going on. Because listen, Dana White wasn't happy about John Jones asking about for a lot of money. But if Dana White has to hop on John Jones' April Fool's joke, I think you're starting to see the lights, the fires, starting to burn up.
And here's where I sit on it as well. I feel this will be the best John Jones we've ever seen. Because what I feel with John Jones is when he was fighting in the light heavyweight division, he'd beat everybody. He was the man. He was the don of that division. And I don't think he believed anyone was up to his standard. Because you've seen that with the first, I think it was the first Alistair Gustafsson fight. But John Jones, he was hardly training. He was at party. He was taking cocaine. So I feel with the Francis fight, he will know he's in danger and his legacy is in danger. So we will see the best version of John Jones. But whether that's enough to beat the Predator, I'm unsure.
One quick point. I always put this factor into play before someone goes up into a new weight class, right? And I saw this with one of my local fighters, Chris Weidman. The power is different at heavyweight. I'm not going to lie, right? So I give Francis a punching chance because if he lands the right punch, I think John Jones goes out because that's how much power he has. Before I go into the but, and John Jones is going to be carrying possibly 30 to 40 more pounds than he did ever in his whole fighting career. So that plays into a factor of, hey, are you going to, stiffen up? I forgot the word. What is it when you're lactate? Are you going to lactate quicker than ever before, right? With your muscles. So all these factors come into play, but I think John Jones is he looks at this as his golden goose opportunity, right? You have one shot at making yourself the king of the world. And this is John Jones's chance.
Before we move on from this subject, I just want to bring up my standpoint. I think Dana White and John Jones have a done deal. I think this fight is already settled for John Jones and Dana, but they're just playing us. They're working the fans. They want us to think, oh man, let's really hope this fight goes and comes to fruition. It'd be so cool. And the whole time they're just playing us and building that hype with all of this drama, all of this intrigue behind, oh, Jones wants more money. Now he's saying, let's release me. Blah, blah, blah. You think Jones wants released from the UFC? And do you think he's afraid to fight Francis? I say no. I say this is a work from the UFC. They're playing the fans. I think the deal's done. They're just going to wait on this and build hype because they want this to be the fight. They want to build this up and have this compete with what McGregor and Khabib did with their fight. I think that's what they want this. They're trying to achieve that. And this is a part of that plan is by playing the fans like this. Just a little interesting thing to throw in there before we move on.
I actually agree with what Makoa said there because we're an example of that. We are essentially Dana White's pawns right now. We're doing a podcast and we've spent 20 minutes talking about this fight. But Dana White is a mastermind.
I'm going to go on, Kevin.
No, so I agree with Makoa, with Martin. I think, you're right. Maybe they are because, Dana White responding to that tweet just too good to be true in a sense. Like, man, like if they're playing us, damn, they're playing us. If they're not, damn, what are we going to do? We're like, in that type of situation. But yeah, like this, like, listen, there's only one division in which you get to call yourself the baddest man on the planet, right? And that is the heavyweight division. So, like I said, golden goose opportunity for John Jones and Francis Ngannou. Because I'm telling you right now, if Francis Ngannou loses to John Jones, I think that just destroys the whole aura that he has. And that's why I think this is a bad fight for Francis Ngannou to take right away. I think what you do is, like, if you look at UFC 3, the video game, they don't give you the super fight right away. They make you defend the belt a couple of times. So I think that if the UFC should do some listening, they should listen to themselves and how they made the UFC 3 game. Hey, give Francis Ngannou a couple of title defenses. Like, hey, I'm pretty sure you can throw in a Derek Lewis title defense, just like they did it with DC, just to get it out of the way. Because if we're gonna see the same Francis we saw against Stipe, then I think we see a pretty good fight against Derek. But I sincerely hope that this is not the next fight they make for Francis, because I'm telling you, if Jones catches this guy and he finds out what really makes this guy tick wrong with Francis, Jones is gonna make, like, he's gonna demolish him. And I'm telling you, Dana White's gonna look like the biggest fool again, like he did against with Stipe Francis the first fight. But yeah, like I'm praying that this fight is not the next fight for Francis Ngannou.
Well, I've got one more point I wanted to add to the podcast. There's an event going on over here in the UK. I don't know how much you've seen of it, Kevin. Cage Steel 25 is due upon us. Have you seen much about it, Kevin?
Yes, our main man Lewis Simpson's been promoting it. It's one of the growing promotions in the UK. There's, I think, an Indian fighter fighting. I want to make sure I got his name right. Makoa, what's his name? Do you know what it is, by any chance?
I would space it out. Who are we talking about?
So it's the Cage Steel card. I saw a Singh replacing being a late replacement for a fight in the card.
Let me work on that now. 1 second.
That's the main card. No, that's the main event. Sorry, I'm sure that's the guy that's fighting Scott Malone.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
The guy, Elliot Hoy.
The guy Singh, he was already fighting on the card. I think he was a bit lower, and then Elliot Hoy had to pull out with injury, which is saddened me a wee bit because I was really excited to see Scott Malone and Elliot Hoy. Elliot Hoy is an absolute beast, so that's sad. But as an undefeated fighter in Scott Malone, but I need to back my Scottish brethren.
Well, I'm going to say I can't wait for this card, obviously. Myself, I've got my own head MMA trainer, Sean Lomas, fighting against a tough guy in Tom Crosby. They've both fought some real tough guys throughout their career, obviously. Sean Lomas, a legend within the UK MMA scene, having over 100 professional fights. And I've not been able to see what Sean's been working on because over here the gyms have been closed for God knows how long, so I've not been able to train with Sean since December, I think. But after interviewing him, which you can catch on our channel, he said he's worked on his grappling, his striking, and I really maybe biased in me for saying it because I'm obviously used to training with a guy every day when the gyms are open, but I truly believe Sean can get this done. But I also believe Tom Crosby can get it done because they're both tough guys. But a fight that I'm not sure many people are too excited or know much about is, and I'm sure it's an amateur fight, Stafford Swainston and Ibragimov. And this is a real good fight in terms of the amateur scene. Stafford, great fighter, and Ibragim, he's one of the Dagestanis. He's really good. I remember a couple months ago, I went down to Manchester Top Team themselves, spoke to a few of the guys, and I met Ibragim there. He's a great kid. He's only 17 years old as well, and he's 6-0 in his amateur career. And I tell you what, I wouldn't want to fight him, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people wouldn't as well. But fair play for both kids stepping in there. Stafford as well. This fight, I'm going to give a prediction. I'm going to say Ibragim via a decision. But Kevin, if you could give your opinion on the card overall, how would you analyze it?
Well, before we move on to Kevin, sorry to interrupt,
no
problem. The person who is stepping in to fight Scott Malone, Scott Malone, is Kiru Sahota. He is a 5-0 fighter, and I think most of his experience comes from, he trains out of AVT MMA.
All right, so going into Cage Steel, it's a new promotion to me. I'm getting more experience with the smaller promotions, especially out of the US. And Cage Steel happened to, work with us, and I was impressed to see all these fighters. And there's a fighter on the card that Lewis was able to interview. Where when I read the interview, man, my heart was like swelling up because the guy, he has. I'm not gonna lie, he has a crappy record, right? It's not a pretty looking record, but you got to respect a man's man's resolve not to back down from adversity, right? He basically says like, hey man, if I quit, what am I gonna tell to my kids? And honestly, like, I think Lewis scored one of the biggest interviews I've seen in a while with that interview, because that man is the epitome of what it means to be a fighter. Listen, you might not win every fight, but God damn it, if you can still stand and fight, you got to stand and fight all day. So going into my Indian brother in Kira Singh, I'm always happy to see my people from my nationality compete, because, you know, as you guys know, like, you know, India is not known for dominating the sports world. So seeing somebody, you know, being in a top position in any sort of promotion or sport, it's happy to me. It's happy for me to see. I can't wait to see his performance. I can't wait to see the guy Lewis interviewed perform. Scott Malone, I'm listen, Martin Mason, I'm holding a lot. I hope the Scott performs well.
100%. Obviously, this event, I've spoken to Dominic Gibbs as well, the promoter of this event, and you can check that out over on our YouTube as well. There's so many fights on this card for how many, the amount of fighters there is in the UK not being able to get fights. We're lucky to get this many fights on one card. I think there's close to 20, and I'm really looking forward to this event. Everyone I've spoken to from the event seemed really up for it, and I think everyone's just glad to have some local MMA back. And everyone, there's the pay-per-view that you can buy. We've got a link. It's plastered all over our Twitter page and Instagram, Facebook. So if you buy it through our link, it'd be greatly appreciated. Obviously, if you know any of the fighters, please buy it through their link as well. It'll support them. But has any of you guys got any more points to add on Cage Steel?
Yes.
Sorry.
The fighter, it's okay. My bad. The fighter that Kevin was talking about, I wanted to make sure we get his name out there. I believe it is Ben Schneider. And I'm looking at the article right now. I believe he is 3-22. So this is a
pretty.
guy.
It's not pretty.
It's not pretty. And this is a guy that shows that, you know what? I'm going to get beat up. I'm going to get submitted. I mean, I'm sure he's been finished every way possible. That's just off the top of my head. But this is a guy that shows the heart and compassion and passion itself for the sport of MMA. He's not fighting for records. He's fighting because he loves to fight. And those are the guys that put on the best types of shows. Last point for me.
Has anyone got any more to add to Cage Steel before I wrap the podcast up?
I was just kind of sitting on what Makoa was saying there about that guy's record. And I think that's amazing that with a record like that, he's still wanting to fight, because mixed martial arts, for a lot of people, it's an outlet. It keeps them on the straight and narrow. So if going and having, I don't know much about this guy's personal life, but if him training for fights and having fights keeps him both mentally and physically healthy, and it keeps him on the right path in life, then keep going for it. But a guy that I really want to bring up, because I'm really looking forward to him, it's a guy called Michael Parkin. He trains at Toon Fish Tank down in Sunderland. He's one of Phil de Vries's main sparring partners. For anyone that doesn't know, Phil de Vries is the KSW. That's one of the big Polish organisations. He's their heavyweight champion. So he's a really good guy. And he was 6-0 as an amateur. This is only his second pro fight. But I was talking to his coach, Andrew Fisher, and what Andrew was telling me is they're having a real issue with finding this guy fights. He comes up to Scotland to train quite a bit. He comes up to train with the likes of Paul Craig from the UFC and Ross Cooper. He's very tight with the Scottish Hit Squad guys. He goes down to Team Kaboom to train with the likes of Tom Aspinall. And Tom Aspinall actually linked his experience with Michael Parkins. He said he had the same issue with finding fights. I feel for a lot of people, let's see if you're someone that fights at a gym that's got the likes of a Phil de Vries and that's your main sparring partner. A lot of people might see you on Instagram and not want to take that fight, especially so early in your career, because as Kevin was saying earlier about the women's bantamweight division, the pool's quite shallow. And that's the same with heavyweight. Like heavyweights, you see them getting into the UFC with the likes of 4-0, 5-0 records. So people know if you get a few wins at heavyweight, if you're 5-0, 6-0 at heavyweight, you've got a huge chance of going to the UFC and Bellator. So why risk it against a young buck who trains at an amazing gym and is clearly an amazing fighter? So it's good to see him getting fights.
My bad to interrupt again, but before we wrap with Cage Steel and cover Bellator very briefly, I wanted to add this point about Ben. The question Lewis asked him was, you have a record of 3-22 in your professional career. I'm by no means discrediting that. Facing loss after loss in your career, what keeps you fighting? What keeps you pushing your body daily and wanting to compete and get into that cage? Can you talk to me if that plays on your mind mentally, or is it just the pure love of the sport that keeps you grinding? This is the guy's response here. He said, well, sadly, I've had more losses than wins that is on my career. But how can I look at my kids in the face and tell them to never give up on something they love, even if they come up short? Yes, I love combat sports, but not everything about it. Winning is not 100% the only reason to fight. If you go into a fight only focused on money or winning, it's easy to lose sight of why you started. No one has ever bought a ticket to a fight and said, I bought this ticket to see someone win. They say, I can't wait to watch them fight. I know I've let my team, my family, and myself down. I love all of them, but without sounding selfish, I fight for myself. It's something that burns inside. I have been fighting since I was 19 professionally, and now I know what I am capable of and have nothing to prove to anyone but myself. I'm blown away by that. I mean,
100%. It's proper heartfelt there, and very, very motivational. As he's saying, he can't tell his kids never to give up on something when well, he can't, because he's not giving up on his own dream as well to become he is a pro MMA fighter. So, but I'm going to wrap Cage Steel there, but I just want to talk about Bellator briefly. Last night, obviously, some great fights going on there. I'm going to talk about the main event, which was Pitbull versus Sanchez. It was as expected from my half. I thought Pitbull was going to go in there, take him out, and that's what he done. What did you boys think of it? What about you, Kevin?
I was never really when I wrote my crossroad for champions, I told that Israel Adesanya versus John Blachowicz was a pit stop to Jones versus Adesanya. Unfortunately, I was wrong. But in this sense, I was going to say this fight was a pit stop, in my sense, to the real fight. AJ McKee versus Pitbull. That's the fight. Listen, Sanchez, he fought him once, and he didn't do he tried, he didn't succeed. And the same thing, this time he finished him. He caught him with the guillotine, put him to sleep, and made it official. I'm telling you right now, Bellator with the main event, not surprised. I think we're looking forward to the final fight with AJ McKee versus Pitbull, and I think that's the fight we all got to be paying attention to.
What did you think of it, Martin?
I thought it was a good fight, especially from Pitbull's point of view. He's got the most wins in Bellator history with 20. He's now got 7 straight wins. I'm sure his last defeat was against Benson Henderson, and he was winning that fight. It was like a freak leg injury that he lost away. But he's actually now the first guy to ever finish Sanchez. So that's quite impressive. And although a lot of people like to stick the boot into Bellator's roster, Pitbull's one of those guys that could come over to the UFC and he could be champion. I think that man could be champion anywhere he is. He is that good. He's so good.
As Kevin mentioned, another guy, McKee. I'm going to give my prediction on that fight. I'm saying Pitbull knocks him out. What about you, Kevin?
I think McKee dominates him on the ground. I'm fully on the McKee train. I don't think. Listen, Pitbull's been champ. Listen, when you have a champion that's been through title defense after title defense, there's got to be that guy that finally is like, yo, you've been through enough. It's time to take that title away and put it onto a new guy who's more fresh. And I think McKee is that guy.
What about you, Martin? How do you see the McKee and Pitbull fight playing out?
I think Pitbull is only 33. That's still essentially at the prime of your career. He's got a lot of years left at the top of the sport in Bellator, because he's now dominating 2 divisions. The only person I can think of that's doing that is Amanda Nunes, and I don't see anyone beating Amanda either. So I don't know. I feel that AJ McKee, he's a good fighter, but it's got to be Pitbull for me. I feel he's getting that W.
100%. We've talked about a hell of a lot today. We've rambled on for, wow, we have rambled on for a while, guys. I've enjoyed every second of it. I'm going to wrap the podcast up there if it's good with you guys.
We're all set.
Can I just get
Oh.
one quick point coming in? We missed them earlier, but I'm really excited for this Saturday at the UFC. It's a huge weekend for UK martial arts. We have Arnold Allen taking on Sadiq Youssef, and we have Jack Shore, who's 13-0. And fun fact about Jack Shore, actually, I found this out talking to Scott Malone. He has only ever lost one round of his professional career, and it was against Scott Malone. He is an absolute don. Do not sleep in Jack Shore. Don't. He is a phenom. Same with Arnold Allen, 7-0 in the UFC. No one talks about him, but they'll get the W's. And UK MMA is on the rise, and I'm for one are so excited.
100%, man, 100%. Have you got anything else to add there, Kevin?
Nothing, listen, it's just the beginning of 2021, honestly. The playing fields for every MMA promotion is just being set. So I think we're in for an amazing year of MMA. When it comes down to is, do the promotions make the right move and the right fights? And do the fighters get the right results? Like, that's all we're looking for. So, man, I'm excited, and I can't wait to discover with you guys.
Perfect, man. I just want to say to everyone that's going to be watching, thank you, and I appreciate everyone that's going to stick through the whole podcast. We've rambled on for a long time, but I've had a blast. Cheers for joining me, everyone. Martin, thank you. Kevin, thank you, and Makoa, thank you. Take care, guys.
All right, boys. Enjoy and stay safe.
Take care, you too.